Hey, church family. Thank you for joining me again this year for our end of year devotional. And my hope is that as you watch this, you've got a warm drink in your hand and maybe you're in some comfortable clothes, your stretchy pants or your Christmas PJs with some family or friends close by. Today, we simply want to take a few moments to reflect as we close out this year and look toward all that God has for us in the coming year. Now, I don't know about you, but growing up, my dad would often have what I called dad talks with my sister and me. These were usually conversations that were pretty random about politics or finances or the nature of life. And when my sister and I would hear my dad start on one of these topics, we'd kind of look at each other and roll our eyes and say, "Here we go again." We could practically quote what he was going to say. Now, I'm the dad, and I have the privilege of being the one my kids look at, often annoyed, and say, "Here we go again." And if you were to ask my kids what my dad talks are usually about, they'd probably say one word: perspective. I'm always talking to them about perspective. Why? Because we'll be having a nice meal out, and one of them will say, "What are we going to have for dinner tomorrow?" And I'll say, "Perspective. Look around. It doesn't matter what's happening tomorrow. We're having a great meal right now." Or they'll say, "We never go anywhere." And I'll say, "Perspective. We literally just got back from Disneyland this past weekend." Or the classic, "We don't have anything to eat. I have nothing to wear." And I'm like, "Guys, perspective. We have a pantry full of food, and you have clothes for every season, and we live in San Diego." Perspective is everything. In many ways, the Christmas story is all about people needing perspective. Think about Joseph. He was a good man. He did the right things. He followed the customs. He lived faithfully. He got engaged to be married. His life was lining up for what looked like a righteous, productive future. And then suddenly his fiancée comes back from vacation, pregnant. Not exactly the plan. Imagine Mary living in obscurity, doing her best to honor God, and an angel appears telling her her entire life has just changed. Talk about confusing. Now, you and I have the advantage of knowing the whole story. We know Jesus would live perfectly, and he would die sacrificially, and he would rise victoriously, and now he reigns eternally. You and I can see the big picture. But in the moment, Mary and Joseph only saw chaos and confusion and disruption and disappointment. A couple of years ago, right around this time of year, our family took a road trip through the Southwest. We went from Texas to New Mexico and Arizona, and I was especially excited because I was going to finally check off a bucket list item, seeing the Grand Canyon. We drove late into the night through the wind and snow to get close to the park. I didn't even know it snowed in Arizona, and I remember waking up the next morning with the sun shining, and I said as we were driving there, I dreamed my whole life of going to the Grand Canyon. Famous last words, because when we pulled up, we walked toward the canyon rim and we realized we had a surprise waiting. The entire canyon was completely covered in fog. We drove all that way and didn't see anything. No rock formations, no sweeping views, no winding river, nothing but fog. You know, and as we reflect on this past year, I wonder about the moments in your life that didn't turn out like you thought they would. the moments where you may have lost perspective or lost clarity, or maybe even you lost hope. Maybe it was a relationship. Maybe it was the stress of finances. Maybe it was the emotional weight of carrying your family. Maybe it was a situation that just was out of control. I certainly think in my own life there were moments like that. Walking with my parents through their health journeys, navigating a new family rhythm with my wife's new job, or processing the reality of our oldest child in her senior year. And I'll admit there were times where instead of seeing the big picture, all I could see was fog. How about you? Where did you experience fog this year? Right now, I actually want to invite you to pause and reflect. Maybe you want to jot down a thought or two, or maybe you want to make a note on your phone, or maybe share with the people watching this around you. I want you to take a moment to reflect on the moments of pain or loss or darkness or fog that you walked through this year. Actually, if you want to, you just feel free to press pause on this video and spend a few minutes with the Lord or with your family to process. You know, here's what we have to remember. God is good, and God sees the big picture. Romans 8:28 tells us, and we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. What does that mean? It means that even in the fog, God is working. Even when things don't turn out like you hoped, when the timing feels delayed and the disruption feels unfair and the disappointment feels heavy, God is still working behind the scenes in ways you can't see, for purposes that you and I don't yet understand. He was working in Joseph's confusion. He was working in Mary's bewilderment, and He is working in your uncertainty too. Even in your mistakes, even in the things that you missed, even in the not so great decisions you made, nothing disqualifies you from His ability to weave things together for your good. You know, one of the reasons I think I've always loved flying is the perspective. At 10,000 feet, everything just looks different. What feels huge on the ground suddenly looks small from the air. And I often wonder what it would be like to see from God's vantage point. You know, that's one of the gifts of a new year. It's a fresh chance to see again. It's a new invitation to hope again. The old is gone, literally, like it was so last year. And the new is 365 days in front of us. And the question I've just been sensing from the Lord as we go into this next year is, what are you looking forward to? What are you looking forward to? You know, normally when I think of that question, I think of maybe a fun trip or someone coming to visit or a big event. But the more I prayed into this, the more I sensed God sort of nudging me differently. The point isn't just looking forward to the big and extraordinary things. But I believe God is inviting us to look forward to things that don't require plane tickets or big budgets, like new encounters with Him, fresh connection with community, going deeper in friendships, having more moments to bless others, personal growth and transformation. So here's the question I want to leave with you today. What is God inviting you to look forward to? What is God inviting you to look forward to? I actually want you to take a moment to reflect, to write it down, to pray and talk about it with family or friends. Ask God what He wants to stir hope for in your heart. I want to end today by saying we need each other. I honestly don't know where I would be without community around me. And you know what? I don't want to know. My prayer as we head into this next year is that you and I would experience more of God together than we ever have before. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I cannot wait to be back together with you next Sunday, January 4th. God bless you.